Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cynical Cinema. I am your host, Ron, and I'm here, as always, with Jake. How you doing, Jake?
Hey, what's going on, Mr. Ron?
We're doing another movie, of course.
Yes, sir.
And this time we're doing The Thing. John Carpenter. This is a 1982 film. What do you think? One of his best?
Yes, easily one of his best.
Big Trouble, Little China,
Yep.
The Thing, and Escape from New York. Like
Yes.
three
Yep.
classic movies.
Oh, yeah.
All collaboration, really, if you think about it, between John Carpenter and
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He wasn't even supposed to really be in this movie.
Really?
He didn't sign on to be in this movie until kind of the ass end. Like, they were going through people. Yeah, I think Ed Harris and a couple other random people that were around at the time. And I think he was involved in the process, but he ended up just agreeing to do the part, I guess, at the ass end there. Like, they were already in production by the time they started filming for McCready.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they were friends off screen to the point where he would do him a favor like that. If there was I don't know.
I really couldn't imagine anybody else doing as good as he did with McCready.
Right.
You know, he's easily the most memorable character in this movie, other than, of course, Wilford Brimley.
Yeah.
As Dr. Blair.
So yeah, let's just get right into it. Really bleak setting for a movie. I mean, it's very
it's isolated. It's the Arctic.
Jeez.
You know, there's not a whole hell of a lot going on out there.
So this is kind of like a science research facility, right?
I guess
it's very vague. Nobody really talks about it.
I don't really remember what the hell they were studying in the first place before they ended up getting all of this extraterrestrial shit.
Yeah, I think they were studying booze, because it's like everybody just has a bottle of whiskey or a bunch of beer and shit all over the place. I think they were it was an experiment to see, like, what happens if we just stick, I don't know, a dozen guys out in a research facility in Antarctica.
Bunch of drunken
and
scientists.
Just see what happens if they all kill each other from just drinking too much.
What happens if we put a bunch of educated drunks on the same compound in the middle of the Arctic?
It's a cool intro because we really don't know what the hell is going on. We're thrown right into the situation where there's a helicopter, and you see this dog running away from this helicopter. The guy, horrible shot, by the way. He just cannot hit this fucking thing. You know, when you see this for the first time, I don't know. You just think they're fucking like assholes for trying to just kill some random dog.
Absolutely.
You think, maybe, what are they doing this for fun? Is this like a sick thing that they're trying to do? You don't realize till later on. Well, actually, just when it gets into the meat of things in this movie, that no, maybe they should have shot that fucking thing.
If just one of those bullets hit their mark, they would not have been in this situation.
Yeah, right. The whole movie wouldn't have happened. But yeah, that fucking dog, by the way, is an amazing actor. What happened to his career?
I don't know.
After this, he should have been cast in way more things. Like, he was really good.
I agree. I hope he found success.
I swear to God, watching this again, I haven't seen it in a little bit. I would say a couple years. Nothing too crazy, but
I haven't seen it in a while.
I couldn't believe how great this dog was. His face, I swear to God, his face was like,
you were just,
oh shit, are they going to find out who I am? And he's looking out the window. He's sneaking out of his room in the middle of the night. It's amazing.
No, it's good. He did a hell of a job.
I also love that shot where, like I said, when he sneaks out of the room, because it looks like he has a purpose, and he clearly does. It's a fucking dog, but they make it. I don't know. John Carpenter did a good job at it. That always amazes me when I see dogs or animals in a movie doing things. It's like, how many takes did they have to do to get them to do
100.
Exactly what they wanted them to do?
Probably Stanley Kubrick level of fucking takes.
Yeah, but I love that shot when he walks into, he's about to go into one of the guys' rooms, and all you see is just the shadow, like the silhouette of that guy. It's just, just actually just like a really cool shot.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that before. We're just like, you don't really see that in movies anymore. I don't know. Just like cool compositions or just something interesting to look at.
Well, it's because I think the dynamic of not just the effects that they're trying to achieve on camera now, but just the direction of how they film things has changed. You know, it's not just about it's about them trying. Nowadays, it's about them trying to accommodate working with computer generated shit and all that kind of nonsense. So the mentality has changed as opposed to back then with them trying to work with something actual tangible that's physically there. I don't know. It was just a different approach. And I don't think there are many DPs from back then still even making films today. I mean, that was
probably not
35 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just, everything's changed since then. It kind of sucks. It's changed for the worse.
I think so too. Yeah, so this movie came out in 1982, which is an amazing year for movies in general.
I think right, so this came out in June of 82.
Right.
So it was competing with Blade Runner.
That's amazing.
You know, so you could have saw this in theaters and then the next day went out and saw fucking Blade Runner.
Holy shit.
Could you imagine? But it was not well received when it came out, though. Like, people couldn't stand this. They thought it was too gory. I think the LA Times said about the movie, like, it sacrificed itself on the altar of gore. You know, it was just...
Not at all.
Well, that's how they felt about it. Because
I guess at the time, maybe it was...
Well, E.T. just came out.
Right.
So with alien science fiction movies, well, this movie was allowed to be made basically because of Alien. You know, they said, the studio said Alien was successful, horror in space, whatever. Sure, let's make something like this. So they decided to remake the thing. Basically, it went from that to E.T. You know, all of a sudden it's friendly alien, and now the studio has cold feet and all that shit. And so when it comes out, like Roger Ebert fucking hated this movie. Like, a lot of the reviewers fucking couldn't stand this movie. It was just too much for them. The special effects were just too over the top. It was too in your face, too brutal, too visceral.
I gotta say, I watched it last night, just before we did this, and I enjoyed the hell out of it.
It was fun.
I think maybe the first time I saw it, you know, years back, I thought it was a little slow in the beginning to set up everything. But watching it again last night, I didn't think so at all. I think it's actually really well paced.
No, I mean, it is, but also you got to look at the setting too. You're set in the isolated Arctic.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be slow out there. There's not a whole lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the interaction with the characters and really what the hell is going on at that moment. So
right.
I don't know. It's a weird kind of movie. Not a whole hell of a lot going on other than everybody's interaction with one another, but it's just a matter of who's next at a certain point.
Yeah, I think they set up the characters well enough to the point where when shit starts going down, you do feel that sense of paranoia between everybody.
Right.
So
everybody's suspicious.
Yeah, so that must have been really cool, especially back in the day. Right. You know, seeing this in the movie theater. Was probably a little more tense than, you know, we're a little bit younger for that generation. So we, you know, the first time we saw this was sitting on our couches. I don't know if it had the same effect. You know what I mean?
No.
Which kind of sucks. Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, really cool. Obviously, Kurt Russell is the main character.
Yep, McCready.
Yeah, Mac, as they call him.
McCready.
He wears a hat in this when they first go to check things out. I guess on the other it was like, now I don't understand. So they have this research facility, and then the Norwegians like had a facility, I guess, a little bit further down, and he's the one that I guess he's the helicopter pilot of the group.
I mean, I guess so.
The hat he wears is just like the most unpractical.
It's like he's prospecting for gold or some stupid shit.
I don't understand it. It's like I feel like he should be like riding a mule wearing that hat and not in the Antarctic. But anyway, I would love to ask them. That would be the question. If I went to a Q&A and it was like John Carpenter and Kurt Russell Q&A, I would just ask like, why that hat? And they'd be like, really? That's the question?
That's the one question you just had to ask me.
But I mean, shit goes down actually quicker than I thought it did. Yeah. Because you kind of, when you've seen a movie, let's say like 4 years ago, and, you know, and then you're rewatching it, you kind of remember things differently.
Right.
So, I just, I thought it was cool the way, like, really the whole dog scene when he gets put in the pen with the other dogs or the cage or whatever,
right.
happens like pretty quickly. You know what I mean? It's not that much of a slog going into this. And then that's when the special effects like really shine. And I think people probably realized they were in for something a little different, especially back in the day, because all the special effects were crazy. And I think the most unsettling thing in the beginning of that scene is when it starts transforming. It's not even the face that gets. I mean, that's cool too. When the dog's face just basically rips open, and then this other thing like
that's
protrudes
the most
out of it.
Part of this movie for me.
It's all the little like red, almost tentacle things.
Yeah,
that is unsettling.
It is.
It really
it's fucked
is.
Up. It's all Rob Bottin is the guy's name.
Okay.
Who did this movie?
Okay.
He before this,
did he win like an award for this?
I think they were nominated.
Okay.
So he had a couple of movies. He worked with Carpenter before this on one other movie. He worked on him on The Fog.
Okay.
He was very young. He was like 21 or something. He was in his early 20s when he was doing this shit with him. And then before that, he had he worked on The Howling, which is another one known for its transformation right there at the end. Like these are over the top effects, but they were fucking amazing, and he achieved them so young. I think he was a protege of Rick Baker. The only reason Rick Baker didn't work on The Howling was because he already agreed with John Landis to do American Werewolf in London.
Okay.
But no, it's Rob Bottin. That guy was...
Yeah,
man.
Just such a bleak movie.
Yeah, nihilistic as fuck.
Actually, it's not as depressing as I thought it was. It originally was.
It's pretty depressing.
Everybody it is, dies. But like I had a lot of fun watching it last night. I'm gonna be honest.
Oh no, it's fun to watch.
Yeah,
you know, that's just the human being in you, liking watching this carnage and this tragedy.
Yeah,
you know, like
Kurt Russell's great in it. He's almost like unfazed by anything.
Well, he's Kurt
that
Russell.
Happens. Yeah, when him and Doc or whatever, when they go investigate the other station in the beginning, they just see a dude with his fucking throat like ripped out, and he has like a razor in his hand or whatever, and he's just looking at him like, fuck.
Yeah, whatever.
Damn, like Nora.
I'm a helicopter pilot. I see this all the time.
It makes me wonder. Like, was he like a Vietnam veteran or something? I don't know, because maybe that would have explained it a little more. Not
even necessarily. He could just be desensitized. Like maybe he's not the best person in the world. You know what I mean? Or whatever. That's why he's in this isolated. Has this isolated job.
I guess I originally thought these are all just regular dudes, and but they react immediately when the Norwegian guys get to their base because the dog follows. Well, I mean, the dog leads them to their station. Dude, the other dude, I forget his name now. You know, it's one of those movies where I fucking like can't remember everybody's name.
Right. There's a lot of different characters.
It's basically he was the leader of the group in the beginning. He just fucking smashes the window and just immediately shoots that dude. He's like, fuck it. Yeah. Like, we got guns here.
We're good.
So it just makes me wonder what the background of these characters was.
Well, it's kind of a movie that it wouldn't give you that because it doesn't really have any context to begin with.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we kind of are able to put a couple of the pieces together. Obviously, they expose something extraterrestrial, and that latched onto the dog, and then whatever the fucking dog did before it met up with this Kurt Russell and this group and all that shit. But there's not a lot of context, so you're not going to get any of that with the characters themselves. You're more or less going to have to reconcile how they interact with the current situation and what actually happens. There's really nothing complicated to go into at all with this movie.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
But it's fucking good though, because it's minimalist until it gets into the actual meat of the special effects and stuff. So do you think this movie would have had the same effect if it lacked the special effects that it does?
No.
If they were lesser?
I think everything had to be 100%. You know what I mean? I think the acting had to be good.
Right.
The special effects had to be, like, everything had to work, which is crazy, you know, that this even got made and this even happened the way it did, because everything had to be firing on all cylinders for it to work. Because, you know, I didn't even think of that, but you could get all this great tension and acting and a really good setup, and then as soon as you do the reveal of what this thing does to organisms on our planet,
it assimilates.
If it was shit, you would just, everybody in the theater, everybody now would just laugh. And and the, you know, it's a testament to the movie that I watched it last night and all the effects held up.
Oh, they're all great.
And not like I was scared or anything, because it's really not that type of movie. I'm not like covering my eyes or anything, but unsettling though, all those little fucking tentacles, man. I don't know what it is about it. Those little red tentacle things.
Lovecraftian,
so weird.
Kind of straight.
Yeah.
It's weird. It holds up, I think. I think if the special effects were any less, it wouldn't have had the same effect on me.
No, it wouldn't have had the same impact on cinema too, because this could have been just some shitty B movie at the time. Nobody cared about it. It just kind of.
Well, it comes from that stock. So it was adapted from the work of John W. Campbell Jr. The story was called "Who Goes There." It wasn't called "The Thing."
Okay.
And it was, I think, published back in 1938 in Astounding Stories or whatever the hell that magazine was. But then it was adapted in 51 by a director I can't remember. I'm not big into shit that old from science fiction or anything like that. It's not my thing. But it was
a Thing from Another World.
Right, Thing from Another World, and that's where, Watch the Skies and all that shit comes from. But I don't know. It was okay. It was way different from the original story. This is actually much closer to the original incarnation of the story, because it would take on the appearance of stuff it would, infect or possess or assimilate with or whatever. And the 1951 version really wasn't about that. It's a remake. It's definitely a remake.
Yeah.
It could be a Cronenberg movie just because of how over the top some of the body horror is and just the level of just gore with it. It's kind of Cronenberg.
Two great remakes. I mean, this and the Fly.
Yeah. Absolutely. But could you see another director making this movie back then? To this level, because I think originally they approached Tobe Hooper.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
But they read his script and they heard his general direction and they did not like it.
Didn't like it.
Really?
So
they moved on. I think John Landis was offered this.
Wow, really? See, I don't know any of this history. Yeah.
And it just kind of went nowhere.
Jeez.
And so eventually they offered it to Carpenter, and he did it because he liked the original movie.
Right.
And so that was his whole thing. But because it was perceived so poorly when it came out, he played it safe for a couple years. I think he did Christine, and then a movie, like a random movie called Starman.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Fucking weird. And then it was Big Trouble in Little China. So it was just like fucking... He played it safe for a couple years with the studios after making this movie. But this was the first time he didn't write a score for his movies.
Yeah. So Ennio Morricone. How do you pronounce his last name?
Ennio Morricone.
Morricone? Okay.
Yeah, he's Italian.
Obviously, like, legendary composer.
Oh, definitely.
How the fuck did Carpenter get him for this?
I don't
do you know the backstory to that?
I do not know how the hell I mean, you can't go wrong with Morricone, so I don't blame him for choosing him.
You see that name.
Well, he did The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
I know, and you're
Once Upon a Time in the West.
Right, so you're expecting, what's he going to do? And it's very, very minimal. It's very...
Yeah, it's like a heartbeat.
Yeah, it's almost like you don't even notice it.
Mm-hmm.
But it adds to the atmosphere of the movie, which is cool. I like stuff like that too. So.
It worked for me, dude. I thought it was cool.
Absolutely.
Really good score.
Yeah, so I mean, we obviously talked about all the special effects and stuff. What did you think about the ensemble?
The ensemble,
all the characters.
I mean, they were good. I wish they had a couple of more recognizable faces.
Yeah, you know what? Then. I was thinking about that last night when I was watching it. I'm like, because you pretty much you got fucking Kurt Russell, even though he's playing it kind of safe in this. He's all charisma. You know what I mean? Like he is just like a fucking movie star. He's like a blockbuster movie star. It would have benefited from like one or two more familiar faces.
Yeah, just familiar faces.
And just like good actors, good character actors. Because I get that it maybe adds to the realism of this, or this like gritty, whatever, like, I don't want to say gritty. You know what I mean? Like this down to earth, like just working class guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very much like Alien type thing.
Right.
But it would have been nice to.
It would have benefited from a few more recognizable faces.
Honestly, a couple actors from Alien would have been great in this.
John Hurt would have been cool.
That's what I mean. Like a couple guys like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not that anyone in this movie's bad. Like everybody does a really good job.
Yeah.
It's just I know what you mean. There should be somebody else to kind of bounce off him a little bit better than everybody else.
Everything is so minimal in this movie, other than the special effects. That I think the movie would have benefited because it's all about the personality of every character, and they only have so much time to convey a certain amount of personality.
Here's the thing. I think the one thing that keeps this movie from being even more iconic than it already is, because I know it's like a classic.
It's a masterpiece.
I know. But the thing is, every time there's a creature or like a transformation or whatever, you know what I mean? Like all the special effects and stuff.
Right.
None of those things have like an iconic look. Like you couldn't be anything from The Thing for Halloween. You know what I'm saying? Like you could be
nothing is distinct.
Like you know what the alien is, you know what Predator is. And I'm not saying that like it should be that. I'm saying that's just maybe why a lot of people didn't grab onto it as much early on, like when it first came out.
I still think it.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say?
I know what you're trying to say. There was nothing really distinct about it. Nothing distinct about it. And that kind of plays a part into its success. Really, I think it was the mentality or how science fiction was perceived at the time. You know, because this is kind of a slasher movie and it's kind of a science fiction movie. It's in this weird fucking place, and you're coming from a time where the studio thought that the only thing that would be successful in terms of science fiction where they were at is something similar to, again, like E.T. or just a whole nother genre, really. So this was a shot in the dark. I don't know. It wasn't appreciated until years later. You know, it was one of those. It was a cult movie for a long time, and it had this vocal minority, and obviously that plays into today. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best scenes really is when, because there's all this paranoia, everybody's blaming each other, so finally they get down to this idea where they're gonna tie each other up.
Yeah, I know.
or you know, everybody's gonna get tied up, and they're going to do kind of like a blood test, but at the same time, I think they tried to do it earlier, but then all the blood bags, remember, like somebody fucked them up or whatever. So Kurt Russell's character comes up with the idea of, I don't even know what it is. It's, what does he do? He's going to do a blowtorch to it or like
set him on fire or whatever.
And just normal blood won't react to it. Right. But his idea is, if this organism is in your bloodstream, it's going to fight like immediately. It's going to try to defend itself.
Right.
So that's the test. So, you know, all these guys are sitting there tied up and they have to give their blood over to him and he's going to test them. And you really, at that moment, when you see it for the first time too, especially, you don't know who the fuck is really going to react to it, you know? So it's a really nice, tense moment, but it's actually really fun to watch too, because you're like, holy shit, I don't know what's going to happen.
So do you think like there were at a certain point in the movie that a few of them are actually infected? So it's like them working in unison against the rest that aren't at a certain point until eventually they're all...
Well, what do you mean by that? Like in that particular scene?
It turns into, no, not in that particular scene.
Yeah, because they're going to say it wouldn't be able to help itself to like react.
Oh, no.
To not react.
No. The blood test thing? No. Yeah, it just goes into a weird place. It just turns into who's going to die next and that kind of shit. That's kind of the whole point of it, I guess. It's Roswell on steroids, you know. It's the typical what people perceive as, you know, UFOs and extraterrestrials. Like when they find the ship, it's a saucer. You know, it's all this shit, and then it's that literally just on steroids.
I know, and you almost forget that because the beginning of the movie is very, I don't know, akin to the beginning of Predator. And I know this was before, and I guess Predator kind of had that same formula, like we'll show the fucking ship coming to Earth in the beginning, which I still think they shouldn't have done. It works for this,
right?
more than it does Predator.
Why?
Because honestly, it would be so much more of a surprise in that movie to be like, oh, this is a fucking alien predator creature.
All right, so I think they probably should have showed space, but don't show the ship.
Right.
You know
for Predator, not this
for
one.
Predator, yeah. Just
this one's ambiguous.
Fine. Oh no, it works for what it is. Like it's a Lovecraft story. You know,
dude, and it's funny we picked this too. I was laughing last night because bring this back to our Prometheus podcast.
Right.
When they first kind of realized, yeah, this is an organism. This is from a different planet. This is from something else because a spaceship landed here. Right. The fucking Norwegian guys dug it up. Exactly. They blew it up to find it. One of the guys in this movie mentions fucking Chariots of the Gods.
Yeah, that's it.
So it's like, I feel like all the movies we're doing in this first little, wave of podcasts, it's all coming full circle now. Like they're all like related in some weird way.
That's it. Yeah, you're not wrong, man.
So yeah, it's just cool that, I don't know.
No,
I mean, I guess it makes sense. We're kind of doing science fiction. And we're trying to do for this month, we're trying to do like horror plus science fiction movies, just to kind of keep with the theme of my channel, and then also, it's spooky season, so
definitely we're gonna do some fucked up shit. We have something down the pipeline. I think that's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. But so I mean, how do you think this movie escalates? I personally think the pacing is really good. Once it gets to the final act. Do you think it was well done at the end there?
I did. I like how just bleak this fucking movie is. And nothing seems to work out for anybody. Obviously, Kurt Russell is able to Kurt Russell his way through the situation.
Yeah.
And I respect the fuck out of that. But, like, it really doesn't turn out well for everybody else. And I don't know. I like the ambiguity of the ending.
Oh, the ending.
But the movie in general, there's a lot of ambiguity. You don't know who any of these fucking people are. The only person you're really comfortable with is Kurt Russell, because you know he's Kurt Russell. It's like, okay, this is the guy that's going to make it through this movie. And then you're comfortable with Wilford Brimley of Liberty Diabetes.
Yeah.
Just because he's Wilford Brimley. But everybody else, you're like, oh, man, you're dead at some point.
Right.
Yeah, and that's just how it is. It's fine. I thought it was done well. Everything is awesome about this movie.
I don't really know how else you end this movie. I think it was perfect.
So there is a deleted scene for the ending of this movie where it kind of took away a lot of that ambiguity. I think one of the original ideas was Kurt Russell does the blood test on himself, and he finds that he's not infected. And
really,
so that's how it fucking ends, as opposed to him, not doing it. And so there's that ambiguity: is he infected? Is he not infected?
Wouldn't it be funny if they did that and it was he cuts his thumb, let's say, with a little knife, puts the blood in, and then just as he's about to fucking stick the thing into it, it ends, and that's it. And then everybody goes, "Oh, what?" And then you have to decide. Really, I think it was the best way to do it because him and Childs.
Yeah.
They were probably the two most level-headed guys in this whole movie.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that they made it to the end. But then at the same time, Blair smashes all the equipment, almost halfway through, or probably not even halfway through this movie.
Right.
And honestly, he probably did the world a favor by doing that. If you really think about it.
Maybe.
Because he looks up on his computer. It's like Alien. He's like looking up the information.
So you think the only way for the rest of the world to survive is if the rest of them were dead?
Everybody has to die.
I kind of agree with that.
And he types it into the computer. Like I said, it's a lot like Alien, where they're looking at the facts of what's going on.
Right.
And the computer is telling them, like, I think it's like in 27,000 hours, the whole world will be consumed by this thing if it gets out. If it gets out into the world.
Right. General population.
So that's why he starts going crazy, and then eventually he turns up. You know, he gets infected too. But
this is a movie where they're all fucked.
Here's the thing: the big it's almost like the final boss, like because the creature gets huge at the end.
Right, I guess that's true.
Kurt Russell just basically is like, fuck you, and just like blows it up immediately.
Yeah, I know.
Like, did you think that was too anticlimactic or like whatever? I mean, at that point, it's like whatever.
I mean, at that point, it is kind of like whatever, but it was the 80s.
Yeah.
You know, like, look at Hellraiser.
Yeah, right.
Right, Hellraiser, it's this crazy build. It's this slow burn. It's fucked up. It's typical Clive Barker. And then right there at the ass end, they try and toss in like a bone dragon. You know what I mean? Like,
I actually kind of want to do Hellraiser.
I'd love Hellraiser, man. We could do Hellraiser. But like, it goes from being amazing until it's like over the top and somewhat ridiculous.
Right.
And that's kind of what happens with this, but at least it's done in a tasteful way.
I didn't think it was too bad.
It was a little silly, but it
could have been worse.
So it definitely could have been worse. I mean, but overall, the movie was pretty damn good. It's a fucking classic for a reason. I couldn't recommend it enough. If you haven't seen this movie, pull your head out of your ass and watch this movie.
Oh, I enjoyed the hell out of it last night. That's why I think this podcast is going to be a little bit shorter because I really didn't have much to say about it. I think when you have a lot of problems with a movie, I think you can talk about it longer in some instances.
Definitely.
You know.
Yeah.
But it was just really fucking awesome to watch. I loved how secluded it was and how bare bones it was.
Definitely.
And it was just refreshing to watch. And
I agree. I like how just ambiguous and I kind of like the nihilism and I kind of like all that and how everybody's basically not making it out of this alive and it's on the bleaker side of things. It's not a happy ending and I respect that.
Yeah,
especially for the early 80s.
Yeah, absolutely.
I respect that.
Cool ending. We don't really know what happens to these two characters. Kurt
Russell obviously survives. I don't care what happens. He obviously survived.
But it's kind of like the opposite of like the Jaws ending because those two guys are just gonna paddle themselves back to shore.
Right.
And in this case, you're like, nah, these two motherfuckers might die. Because even if the organism is not a threat anymore, and it might be, we don't know.
Right.
But even if it isn't, they're just going to die from fucking hypothermia because they just blew up everything.
Well, well, I guess in the Jaws sense, that's an organism out of a Hemingway novel. Right. And then, this one's more an organism out of a H.P. Lovecraft novel.
Right.
So, there is a degrees. There are degrees there, but I can see where you're coming from. It's really it's a fucking classic. There's not much more to say other than that. The special effects were amazing, especially for the time. Like it was just on another level. John Carpenter was at his prime. Yeah,
at the height of his powers. Just everything
he had
comes together.
Power when he made this movie. This was one of his first real studio movies.
Yeah, but that's when you make really good shit.
Yeah,
when you're fucking fighting for some sort of acclaim.
Absolutely.
You go for it, and it's awesome.
Carpenter's kind of a blue collar director.
Stan Winston. There you go. We're looking at the credits now.
Definitely Stan Winston.
Amazing.
A big part of this.
Awesome shit. I mean, people were probably grossed out at the time. I love the old gooey fucking special effects.
Yeah. There's
all the weird
it.
stuff.
Was it Frank from Hellraiser? The skinless guy. There was something about how exact gooey and everything just looked real.
It's awesome.
Or realer, like this computer generated shit. Just some of it's good, most of it's.
Guys, it's a good one for spooky season. Throw it on.
Definitely.
Throw it on. Your wife won't want to watch it with you. That's fine. Watch it by yourself when she goes to sleep. And have a good time and drink a couple beers and watch the thing.
Fucking A, man.
Come on. If you haven't seen it, do it now. Do it tonight.
It's the time of year, man.
And that's it. Jake, thank you so much for joining me again with this one.
Hey, man, it was a lot of fun.
I mean, you have to. You're part of this show.
I definitely am, Mr.
Yeah,
Ron.
if you miss one, dude, you're fired.
I definitely am fired. But no, it was fun, man. It was definitely a lot of fun. Look forward to the next one.
Yeah. I'm hoping to do a couple more horror ones with a little bit of a sci-fi tinge, just because of the channel. But it's October, so I'm just fully in that mode. I want to watch some more horror movies.
So we have something down the pipeline for Halloween?
Yeah, maybe a couple things. Right, you never know.
Perhaps.
Maybe we'll do a couple more than we usually do per month. So.
All right. No, that sounds good. That sounds like a lot of fun. All right, cool.
All right, man. Thanks for coming out. We'll see you next time.
All right.
All right.
See you.
Hey everyone, it's Ron here with a quick announcement. When I started this channel, I was reading and reviewing the Dune books and other sci-fi related material, and most of you might not know that I'm also a musician. So when I was reading these sci-fi books, I started to get inspired and decided to make my own soundtrack to use for my videos, and now I'm excited to tell you all about the first volume in the Ron Reviews original soundtrack collection. This album includes the first 17 tracks featured on my channel, and it's available now exclusively on Bandcamp. Be sure to check the description of this video for the link to the album. Thanks so much for the support so far. I know I'm just starting out, but I hope you're having as much fun as I am. So check out the original soundtrack Volume 1 on Bandcamp. This music is great if you want something moody and atmospheric to listen to while you're reading some science fiction. I think you're going to love it. Thanks.